we are the creatrixes of our lives, and we can choose whether or not to go back to historical patterns and beliefs and stories and ways of being, or we can choose a new chapter and a new way of being. And it's always this thread of like, I deeply know, and I think we both deeply know, it's a lot easier to say it than to actually put it into play and put it into practice. And that is where you are also going to learn the most.
Welcome to the Embodied Woman podcast with me, Rebecca Wilson. An embodied experiential space for you to drop deep into the wealth of wisdom within your being and activate a fuller, richer you. I am a feminine awakener, thought leader, embodied business doula, sacred business midwife, healer, and all-round medicine woman. I am here to guide women deeper into their essence and power, to activate their life force, awaken pleasure, and support them to live an embodied life. I will help you birth your visions, dreams, creations, desires, and sacred business into the world from an easeful, embodied, and rooted place within. My work supports women to become more available for life, love, relationship, connection, creation, pleasure, and wealth. I will activate you into self-leadership and self-mastery to truly live an embodied and awakened life. Welcome on the journey, my love. Hello, beautiful women, and welcome to the Embodied Woman podcast. Today, I am joined by a dear sister and a beautiful friend, Jasmin Chu. Jasmin is a guide and a mentor for women, supporting them to reclaim their power and inner medicine, to embody radical self-responsibility in all areas and aspects of their lives. Welcome, my love.
Thank you so much for having me. It's so beautiful to be here.
Oh my gosh. We were just talking before we pressed record how long ago it was that we arrived into each other's worlds. And yeah, it was feeling 5 years ago now. My gosh, the many rebirths that have happened along the way.
So many rebirths. And yeah, it was December 2018 that I first came to one of your circles in Manchester. And I still don't know what that pull was into your space, but I knew that I had to be there. And if I'd known the journey that would have started from that space, wow, it's just incredible. Really beautiful.
Yeah, it was a huge catalyst for a journey that I am so deeply honored to have bared witness to and held and walked alongside you in all of the unfoldings that have happened, and to sit here with you now, seeing you share your wealth of wisdom with the world is just proud mama bear kind of moment.
Mama bear, I love that.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. So what has been the journey for you in this? What's been big? I mean, there's been so many big moments. We've journeyed together on and off in lots of different ways, in circle, on retreat, in online mentorships, in masterminds together. There's been lots of different ways that we've been together. What do you feel like has been awakening moments for you or realizations?
Do you know what? It feels like a Pandora's box question. It's like a little jack in the box and a pot. Like there's just so much that has unfolded. Yeah, I guess when we first met back in 2018, I was on this spiritual path already. I was in it, but I wasn't in it. I was a yoga teacher and outwardly on the journey, but inwardly there was something missing. And I think that's one of the things that has really arrived for me from our work. In particular, the part over the pandemic years was that arrival into myself. I think at the time, back in 2015, there was a piece of me that felt very lost. And 2015, did I say? 2018, not 2015. It's another story. Yeah, back in 2018, there was a deep part of me that felt so lost and that I couldn't reclaim it. And what I really am bearing witness to and kind of like really able to see now from our journey together is that reclamation of the feminine, that reclamation of all parts of that, and it's, coming back into the body and like really arriving in. And it's been so beautiful because from that space, so much has been born. There's been this deep rebirth on so many levels and arrival onto a path that I never would have believed prior to this time that would have been accessible or available or for me.
Yeah, that beautiful journey of welcoming all the parts home.
Oh, yes. Yeah, it's been such a deep arrival into that. And, it's every day now, then, this really beautiful unfolding that's happening. And this is the beauty of this work and this path is there's always this like layer deeper. Sometimes it's more subtle. Sometimes it's more loud. Sometimes we can't even see it and it's there.
Yeah, it truly does. It informs everything that we are in relationship to in our lives, ourselves, other people, our businesses, our creations, that the more we are with ourselves and have returned back into ourselves, all the parts that have been lost and distorted and fragmented and separated from over the years, the greater capacity we have to be with more aspects of life and whatever that means for us as individuals. For anyone who's listening, that your aspects of your life, that might be motherhood, it might be partnership, it might be business, it might be anything else. And I know for you that it very deeply weaves its way into your sacred business and your creations and all that you are here to birth and are birthing into the world, the spaces that you create for women to arrive into, to support them and guide themselves deeper into who they truly are. But of course, that journey has to begin, has strong way, that strong way that it came out there. But I truly believe that has to begin with the self, because how can we possibly guide others back into relationship with all parts of themselves if we are in turn in conflict or not willing to? We don't have to have been arrived fully back into all parts, because like we say, it's an ever unfolding journey. We don't always know all the parts that have been exiled or lost until we know. But to be on that journey of consciousness and openness and curiosity, to truly want to and desire to and align to welcoming the parts back in, like what parts of me have I abandoned or rejected or exiled that are ready to be remet, to be brought back into relationship to, and to reclaim fully as another aspect of the wholeness of who I am.
100%. And I think the speaking into the openness to it is so important, because the way that we can meet this, we can even meet it from a closed space with like deep resistance. And there is, of course, going to be moments of that, because we're meeting these really tender parts or rejected pieces of ourselves. And yet when we can also hold that resistance and possible closed offness, but also bring in this curiosity and this openness of what does this part of me need in this moment? How can I nurture this piece of me, this part of me that maybe did not get what it needed in that moment and historically? And then again, it's that beautiful way of integrating ourselves and awakening ourselves to our wholeness that's already there.
Yeah. And most deeply, the parts that the ego really doesn't want us to see.
Oh, yes.
Because we've created strategies and coping mechanisms and behaviors and beliefs and stories around ourselves and other people and the world and the universe. And when we begin to arrive back into relationship to all the parts of ourselves, those stories and those strategies are met with a threat, because it's like, well, now that this is potential, or this part is welcome home, that story or that strategy, or that story that was made up and the strategy that was born from that can no longer exist. And so the ego, if we will call it that, or the younger part, or the inner protector, there's so many ways of describing these parts, but that part of the self that wants to keep everything locked and bound as it is, because it's familiar, not because it's safe. It's perceived safety there, but it isn't true safety. It's just the familiar feeling, is then like, oh, no, we're not going there. We're not reclaiming that part, that because that means that all these stories and all of these experiences that we've had and all of the ways I've showed up in my past versions of myself, or in relationships, or in my business, like they all need to decay also. And it's that willingness to turn towards those feelings and those processes in curiosity and great allowance of that unfolding. It's just such a powerful space of surrender.
Yeah, it can feel like a full crumbling sometimes. It's a crumbling of, like, in the kindest way, an illusion. It has kept us safe, and there can be the trap that we fall into when we see this, that we reject that part of ourselves and then find another piece of ourselves to reject, like rejecting the thing that kept us safe, when actually what we really need to do is just hold those parts and allow it to be as it is. You know, it's the reality of what is something that's so important, is being really, really okay, or really as much as we can be in acceptance of how it was and how it's beginning to unfold, and finding the power in what was, to then walk us through into what we are coming into, what's unfolding, what's evolving, and finding a deeper level of trust in who we are becoming and who we are in this moment, and how we can hold ourselves through it.
Yeah, that true permission to evolve. Because if we are so committed to holding on to our stories so tightly, evolution cannot rise through moment to moment experience of life. We can never be in that seat of learning from each interaction and experience and sensation and feeling that is born in all of our daily experiences, because we're spending so much time committed to holding on to the belief or the story that's being etched in our body and our being and our consciousness, and possibly being carried through the lineage and many, many generations before, or culturally or socially. And it's like, this is how it is, and this is how it's got to stay. And that like limits or blocks that permission to expand and evolve our consciousness, to better meet ourselves and life and all of its experiences.
Yeah.
And it's that part of how willing are we to release the grasp and just to soften even a little around the potential that that story may be inhibiting us in some way, to allow us to see with curious eyes, but what if it could be a little different? How would that feel? And that's that gentleness of that real feminine energy that, you know, we both work with in our work so deeply, of like having that artful feminine way of softly seeping into those tight holdings and finding that space of like, but here in this moment, how would it feel to exhale some space, and what's there?
Yeah.
And it's that gentle kind of unpicking and unraveling and bearing witness and holding that space, which is just so divine.
100%. And I think that there's so many pieces to that. And one thing, like with the gentleness, is this is the new way of meeting things. anything in life, we need to come in with this real gentle. And I want to just kind of like caveat it in the sense of like, it's not like cotton wooling yourself, you know, it's like being the adult, it's like the responsible woman. And it's also knowing that if we come at things head first or go in head first, we're coming from a space of like force. And when we force something, there tends to be this collapse afterwards. So when we come into things from this slow and gentle space, we actually meet our expansion and our evolution in a far more grounded and sustainable way, because we are not busting out our nervous system in a way that kind of keeps patterns going.
Oh, yeah. The story transfers into something else. It's like, oh, the ego is like, oh, well, we can't hold on to that story in that way anymore because she's found us out, but we'll just move it here into the healing journey or into the reclaiming and integrating part. And we'll just head on, smash through this, and then we'll fry the nervous system, and then we'll have to go back into collapse so that we can play the victim or the martyr or not be responsible and wait for somebody else to come and save me. And you know, that piece that is like you spoke into, that responsible piece and being a responsible woman, and the journey of witnessing you throughout the years, over the last 5 years, and the deepening into responsibility and integrity that I have observed in you has just been so profound. And I am in awe of your level of integrity and inspired and really deeply moved, and just kind of like this energy of like, I can do a really big exhale knowing that you're in the world with that depth of all of that, supporting women, because it is so important. I feel very emotional. It's just so important to be radically responsible space holders, not responsible for other people. And tending to and taking care of them and being the caretaker or then the martyr or the victim, or all these ways in which these triangles of energy and the dramas and the loops play out, but radically responsible for your own alignment to your values and beliefs and integrity. And that is something I have witnessed you mature into, and is just breathtaking to me.
Thank you. Yes, I'm really feeling the emotions just here, that like, I guess sometimes it is hard to see ourselves, and to have a reflection like that back is really beautiful, because, you know, it's not easy being in integrity. It's a strong value, and it's not something that I would ever come away from. But especially when you're kind of cultivating what integrity is to you, and a value it as a value, and what that looks like and how that's reflected in life and in work, when you're seeing other people out of integrity, that it can bring up so many really interesting patterns of, I guess, victim, like all of the stories that can come up. And like, I think it's a really important thing to speak into, because when we are like really coming into our own and finding what is true, what is in integrity, what is responsibility for us, what is truth, what is power, what is liberation for us, we also will be met with what isn't. And they tend to be a lot louder when we are journeying the depths of what it is for us. And, you know, the stories will most likely play out a little bit for us as we walk this path. It most definitely has for me. And it's been such a beautiful homecoming into what that really means, and how that shows up in life and in work and supporting women.
Yeah. I just feel like you've matured from maiden to mother into woman, from girl to woman. And it's just, I can feel you so deeply anchored in your womanhood. Yeah. Just deep bows to you, because you got yourself there. I was just the witness on this journey. So thank you for honoring me with that and allowing me to be part of that watching that unfold inside of you.
Thank you. It's really beautiful because especially the pandemic years, it was kind of has been a big body of the time we spent together. And I mean, I think it's probably been, I can't remember off the top of my head, but there's been a couple of gaps, but there's kind of also been this kind of consistency within your spaces. And I'm very much someone who believes that having that consistency of someone who sees you, that witnesses you, that holds you is so supportive, because the relationships there, the trust is there, the depth that you can go to in a space where you know the facilitator, the mentor, and your spaces are a testament to you because it shows the level of depths that you have journeyed within yourself. I'm in full agreement for what you said earlier is anyone could be a space holder or a facilitator, mentor, but there is this level of depth that you have to reach if you want to be a space for transformation for people. And that's the difference. It's all so deeply entwined in the energetics of ourselves, the kind of the deep excavation work that we have devoted our time to, our lives to, because we know that we can get trapped in story, we can get trapped in victim, we can get trapped in whatever it is that is our story of our life, which is a phrase that you use all the time. I absolutely love it. Whatever that is, it's how can we actually step away from all of that and also journey it deep within ourselves?
Yeah. I remember that moment in the call, actually. It's so funny because the way I hear things inside of myself is just so crazy. And I think it's actually a phrase from that TV show where they would go get a famous person on and it'd be like, this is the story of your life. And they had this massive red book and it would be like all these pictures of this famous person's story. And when I said it, I heard it as that TV presenters voice inside my head on that call. And I was like, it just came back to me, even as a child, I must have watched that because it was a real 90s TV program. But that is it. It's we're carrying around the story of our life. And even when you stump your toe in a particular way, I'm like, oh, typical story of my life. And I'm like, oh, it's an interesting phrase. What is the story of your life? And how are you participating in the continual recreation of that? Because we are all powerful beings and we are constantly creating our reality from moment to moment with our thoughts, words, actions, beliefs, the interactions that we have, the ways in which we be with ourselves and the world. In relationship to everything and everyone, because we are. So if we don't like the story, we don't give the pen to somebody else, and which is ultimately the power. We hold the pen and we rewrite the script, because that is us reclaiming our power as sovereign beings who can choose and create our destiny, not rewrite our history. That is not possible. Yes, these things that happen in life, they happen. I definitely have had a lot of the things happen, but I don't write the next chapter of my story from the old one. You're constantly evolving and choosing to recreate. And that is where that real creation and creatrix energy comes in, right? And it's something that we work with so deeply when we've been journeying into the body and the womb and that feminine portal of we have this vessel inside of us that literally creates life, but it doesn't stop there. The space inside of us is the energy beyond the physical womb. It's this portal of creative power and potential. What are we creating? What are we birthing from ourselves into our lives? And is it in alignment with our values, our desires, our integrity, our beliefs? Are we stuck in those loops of being and then trying to look outside at who to blame for that?
And it's really challenging, because when in moments where we look outside of ourselves, what we really need is a mirror. And, that is one of the biggest wake up calls that I personally had to journey was when life was ultimately at its most challenging. I had to be in that full responsibility for me. Like, no one else made the decisions that took me to those places but me. And that was ego shattering and the most liberating thing, because that is where our rebirth takes place. When we do realize that the power we have been choosing to outsource, we can actually draw in from ourselves and source ourselves constantly and be, as you say, we are the creatrixes of our lives, and we can choose whether or not to go back to historical patterns and beliefs and stories and ways of being, or we can choose a new chapter and a new way of being. And it's always this thread of like, I deeply know, and I think we both deeply know, it's a lot easier to say it than to actually put it into play and put it into practice. And that is where you are also going to learn the most, is in the fact that it's really easy to say, it's really easy for the mind to comprehend, but the body isn't. Like, the body takes a minute to catch up, and it's actually creating space for change. We can very much get wrapped up in excuses. There can be this, oh, I'm too busy, oh, I'm this. And yes, there's no denying life is full at times, but we have a choice in every moment of, do we want to create a new pathway or stay with the one that seemingly keeps us safe but unfulfilled?
And then the question is, why are we choosing to partake in actions, beliefs, and behaviors that keep us unfulfilled? And what's the belief that lives under that? I'm not worthy of the life of my dreams and my desires. I don't belong enough. I'm bad. There's shame. It's wrong. It's sinful. I'm not enough. Someone will find out, all of those shadowy parts. And yeah, I mean, those are the parts that, interestingly as well, often, on the journey of like meeting all parts of ourselves, we're like, oh, we meet the tender little child within. And there's always a process, of course. And I'm not saying it's easy to meet those parts, but to meet the other parts, the part that is the master manipulator at, manipulating to get everything your way, the part that is like a absolute assassin at controlling everything. And you're like, oh, these parts are yearning to be met too, with that same tenderness. Not, oh, you bad girl, go to your room, sit in the corner, exiled back into the dark basement, but rather also with tenderness and gentleness. And for me, that is really where deep responsibility lives. Like, how am I responsible for all of the ways in which I choose to show up in the ways, and not because those strategies or coping mechanisms were born from our responsibility. Often they happen because of pains or impacts or traumas that happen in our lives that are not our responsibility or did not happen because of us. They just happened. But later on down the line, we have to lean into inquiring, well, how do these strategies and these ways of being, because of that incident that happened, or that experience that I had, or that feeling that I couldn't feel, so I pressed it down into this or to that. How is it showing up for me in my life? Is it serving me? Is it playing into the life in which I desire to create and embody, or not? And, and then there's two clear pathways. Like, yes, it's serving me. Well, there's always a question there as well. Like, how is it serving you? Is it serving your truth, or is it serving your ego? If it's like, no, it's working for me, it's like, okay, great. If not, you go back to the original question board, and then you're like, what needs to shift, not what needs to change. Yeah. And it can be in a fleeting moment as well. Like, those choices can live in a breath, which more and more I have become subtly attuned to and aware of, because life does get full, like you say, and there's a lot of excuses that can live in all of these manifestations of time or energy, which all ultimately inhibit us from showing up for ourselves, because there's potentially a belief that we are not worthy of being showed up to or for in that way, because we're not lovable enough for that. But what if instead of reacting to an experience, we just took a breath? One breath is enough to change a reaction to a response.
Mm-hmm.
And there, the whole chain of patterning has shifted. And that's deeply embodied work. And that is, I know, the journey that we both support women to come back into the body, first of all, so that they can then embody that creation energy and create from that new state of being inside of their bodies and their nervous systems, whatever it is they desire.
Yeah. And that's the liberating thing, is it's all within you.
Yeah.
It's all within us. It's all here. It's just allowing and taking that responsibility into knowing that you have the capabilities, the capacity, the power within you.
Yeah. Yeah. More recently, there's been this voice inside of me like, well, you're the adult now, and this is an adult thing to do. So I've definitely been going through very deep and subtle maturing or integration or maturation of still some younger parts that were potentially trying to run the show or still echoing there that hadn't been fully brought into the present moment. And they were living in these historical ways. But now the adult is much more online than ever before. And there'll always be small child parts for us to tend to. But there's this voice of you are the adult now. It's an adult thing to do, to be responsible for yourself. Whereas previously it was little Rebecca was who will look after this and be responsible for this? And it was more responsibility. I'm not responsible because I can't be a bad girl. I'm a good girl. And good girls are never responsible for bad things because I'm not bad.
Mm-hmm.
That was an echo of a story that lived on. And now it's nothing's bad or good. No, nothing's right or wrong. You are responsible for your actions and your behaviors and ultimately your own nervous system in your relationships with people and life and business and all of the things. So that's the adult thing to do.
Yeah. And it's such a beautiful reclamation of that, isn't it? And remembering that, when our child part does get a little bit louder and the adult us kind of comes in and it's I've got you. It's cool. Yeah. You don't need to take the lead in this moment. I'm taking the lead for us.
Yeah.
And sometimes the child just needs that to kind of have that little sigh of, oh,
yeah,
I'm okay.
I'm held here.
Yeah.
And again, that's where that beautiful, sacred space arrives. The space between the story, the history, the child part, and the present, grounded, aligned, attuned adult part. However we see all of those different expressions, there's a historical part of us, which is most likely our inner child, because that's where, textbook, everything gets formed. And then there's the present day self, which is the adult. And when there's enough space between them, it's the child does get to collapse into the internal adult's arms. So there's not a full collapse there in the whole system of the body, which then has us here going from me to you, hey, hold little Rebecca. I don't know what to do with her. And you're you hold little Jasmin. And then we're throwing our inner childs towards each other, which is what most people are doing in relationship. Take her. I don't know what to do. And oh, now I'm burdened with your child. So we've still both got children to deal with. And it's the child can collapse within the adult that is able and built capacity to hold the big feelings that the little part of us didn't know how to feel at those younger times of life.
Yeah, I really, really feel that. And I absolutely love that analogy. It's, it's so true when we are in relationship to other, which we are all the time. And that is actually where all of the work happens, whether that's in a group space, like a mentorship or partnerships, family, whatever it is, friendships, that is where the work lies. It's in connection to the other and noticing all of these little parts of us or big parts of us that are in need of being witnessed, being integrated, being held.
Yeah. Yeah. That wound that is born from disconnection, to the young part, it is healed in connection once again, now, however old that part is. And that is yeah, there's always such beauty in, like, you know, the group experiences that we share, and maybe on retreats or those longer online immersions, and, you know, that feeling of like, oh, somebody in the group sharing something, it's making me feel uncomfortable, or, you know, I don't like the way that happened, or, oh God, this or that. And it's like, the finger that points outwards, it really needs to look most deeply within. And that is that real beauty of being in a shared space, whatever that is, you know, like I say, online or on retreat, even in relationship with people and friends in life. It's like, oh, why does that touch or activate me so deeply? What is alive here for me that it is illuminating, that I get to now look at? And then all of a sudden that person that we believe has been like annoying us or triggering us becomes our like master and the greatest gift that we've ever experienced. Like, thank you. I did not know that that was alive in me.
Oh, yeah, 100%. And this is why this type of work is so supportive for life, for everything, because it's a playground. It's a playground for us to explore in a safe space, a supported space, these parts of us that are wanting to be witnessed, wanting to be held, that we can then go out with the resources into life. And when we're met with them in like, I mean, group spaces are real-time situations, but also like in life, real-time situations, we have the resources at our fingertips and within us to meet that from a more rooted place.
Yeah. And that's always such an interesting piece, you know, when, like, I don't know, maybe you have that experience too. I'll have women write to me and say, I'm just not really sure about groups. I'm like, well, what is here? What are you avoiding that will be illuminated in being seen in a group of other women? Or I just would like to do one session. I don't really feel like signing up for 3 or 6 or 9 months. And I'm like, what is your relationship with commitment and being truly seen? And I know I had a really big shift in my business a few years ago where, you know, before that I was offering a lot of like individual sessions, and then this real desire. I was also hosting like loads of retreats and online immersions, and so those longer commitments were there. But this whole, I don't know if I ever shared this story actually. I went onto my website, so funny, to like edit the landing page of the one-to-one like individual session like offering, and I thought I pressed edit, but I actually pressed delete. And the whole web page got deleted. And I was like, oh no, I need to call Squarespace and try and get this page back. And I was like, this is a sign, these one-to-one ad hoc sessions. And I'd been feeling it for like at least 6 months, but hadn't been acting on it. And anyway, I deleted the page so that it no longer existed. So I had no choice. And I was like, okay, I was like, I'm not rewriting that page. I've got no idea what it even said. I've not got it, didn't have it saved anywhere. That's a divine moment of spirit just saying, this is what we're doing now. And that was me stepping into like, okay, well, I'm calling in depth and intimacy and connection. And the way to journey with me is for a minimum amount of time, because I want to see you and I want to feel you and I want to get to know you and I want to journey with you. Let's do this together.
Yeah, I really feel that. And actually, it's very, very similar to something that I'm journeying personally at the moment within my work, is that like that longer holding and running some really incredible circles over the past 2 or 3 years, and them just naturally starting to feel super complete and trusting in that. Trust it is there's the beauty of it when you do live from a space of creation. There's always something to be born from the space of what you're being called and what your body's pulling you to let go of. And that's the journey of death and rebirth, creation, destruction, and all of the things. It's like, how do we trust what is leaving to be coming in?
Yeah. The journey of being an embodied creatrix. What does that mean to you?
It's such a felt experience that it just lives fully within me so much at the moment. It's so beautiful. And it is just this constant surrender into what is, because when we start to let go from the mind, the mind starts to let go, and we actually allow what is wanting to pour through us to pour through us. So much is born from that space. And for me, that's what the embodied creatrix is just allowing the aliveness of what's in you to pour out of you into the world. You know, I really see it at the moment. It feels very tangible in the fact that it's like source energy pouring through my body and wanting to be birthed through my womb, through my body, into the world. And that's how it's feeling right now as I speak it.
I'm really like tempted to say it. Could you give it a sound?
Ooh, do you know what? It's not even this. It's just this deep.
Yeah. Gorgeous. There's a little insight into the things that happen in spaces together. That beautiful piece, and people, I mean, I know it so deeply. I'm like, it's just alive inside me and I can't find the words. So I'm like, this is what it sounds like. Oh, there it is.
There it's arrived. And that's the beautiful thing about embodiment is sometimes you cannot articulate or bring the intellectual to it for a while. Sometimes you have to be in the full feeling state and experience of what it is. And that includes sounding, movement, just marinating in it before the words come through.
Yes. Full body tingles, hair standing on end. Yes. That is the embodied creatrix energy. So share with us all of the things that you're birthing into the world these days. What's alive?
My current birthing, there's a couple of things that are birthing at the moment, and I'm rebirthing my membership. So my membership's having a rebirth. I had a little pause for a while and it's coming back. So I have a beautiful membership called Vessel arriving around the solstice, as well as a longer mentorship, group mentorship in the autumn, which has been marinating for a good couple of years. It's full, and the timing that's the thing I think with creatrix energy is trusting the timing of when it wants to be birthed. It's that gestation period, and sometimes it is a full 9 months, sometimes it's a little longer, sometimes it's shorter, and it's just trusting in that. So they're the kind of things that are, you know, the kind of topics and threads that are in all of my work is this deep feminine wisdom. It's all around kind of coming out of the victim triangle, stepping into self-responsibility, arriving into body, as well as working deeply with some very beautiful medicines as well that I serve.
Gorgeous. Loving it all. Yes, I can feel it. Thank you so much for sharing your time and energy and wisdom and journey with us. It's just, I think I'm bathing in the energy of it all. I'm just visualizing like a big pregnant womb and like the cervix starting to contract, and that piece, I mean, you know, this is like the insights that I have around like birthing creations as well. And it's like, gotta wait for the contractions. Don't push because you'll tear. And just like, you know, I learned that in my doula training and for birthing babies, and I just translated it into this embodied creatrix space of like, don't push, allow the surges to come, soften into and relax into the contractions, and the birth will happen. Your body knows exactly when the time is right to birth your baby, your vision, your creations, yourself, in full trust and surrender to the wisdom of the body.
And that's the power of the female body, isn't it? It's that like it knows when it's ready. It knows when it's ripe, and it knows when it's ready to birth. And that goes for everything in life.
Beautiful. So where can people find you, my love?
Instagram is where I usually hang out. So my handle is I am Jasmin Chu on Instagram, and my website is jasmin-chu.co.uk.
Gorgeous. I'll pop all of the links in the show notes as well, so everyone can find you there and connect with you and arrive into your world. So yeah, just deep bow of honor and gratitude. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being part of my journey and my life. I deeply honor and love you so, so much. So huge waves.
Thank you so much, Rebecca, for all of your magic, all of your holding, all of your wisdom, and the incredible ripples that you are sending out into this world. They are felt everywhere. Thank you. I love you.
Love you. Thank you for joining me on this journey today. If you loved this musing and sharing, I would love for you to share this episode far and wide. You can arrive into all of my offerings at rebecca-wilson.com. Links to dive deeper with me are in the episode notes. Remember, my love, you are here to be the fullest, most potent, powerful, embodied version of you. I am here to guide you into that. Hey love, I'm dropping in here to welcome you to join us in our online community membership, The Village. I created this space for women to gather, to return to themselves, to deepen the connection and the relationship with self, whilst held in a community of like-minded women walking the journey and the path of their own awakening.